This is Unit 2, Week 3, all of the amendments to the U.S. Constitution, the last series that don't have a perfect little group. The 23rd Amendment, Washington, D.C. citizens could not vote for president because they're not a state. So this amendment gave citizens of D.C. the right to vote for president as if they were a state. So it gives to D.C. 3 electoral votes, see 23, because if D.C. is really small, and if it was a state, it would have 2 senators and 1 member of the House, so it would have 3 electoral votes. It essentially let citizens of D.C. participate in the general election in November for president. The 24th Amendment bans poll taxes. Poll, P-O-L-L, 4 letters, best I can do. The 24th Amendment in the Civil Rights era banned the use of small fees to vote because the fees could pass the 14th Amendment. They were equal for all citizens. Of course, they were slanted towards blacks who had to pay or didn't have as much money, or, as the poll tax was stated, if you hadn't voted previously, you had to often pay for successive votes that you'd missed. Essentially, these were largely eliminated by the 60s. It was hugely symbolic as an amendment, but it did remove one more restriction on blacks from voting. One more creative way many states, especially in the South, had gotten around the 15th Amendment guaranteeing blacks the right to vote. The 25th Amendment is kind of complicated, but simple in what it's supposed to do. What if there's no vice president? How do you get a new one? Twice in the history a president had died. I think this was ratified in 1967. But twice before that a president had died, and the vice president became president. But there was no replacement VP. So the 25th Amendment said, first, if a vice president becomes president, then that president will select a new vice president who will be confirmed by a vote of both the House and the Senate. So this is actually the only presidential appointment that does not get confirmed in the Senate. This only rarely happens, but if you picked a new VP during a president's term, both sides of Congress would confirm it. The next thing it said was, in Part 3, if a president is temporarily unable to perform his duties, say he's going in for surgery, he's sick, he falls into a coma, something to that effect, well, if he knows about it in advance, he can write a letter to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House saying, I'm unable to fulfill my duties, I'm making the VP the acting president, so essentially declaring the vice president the temporary president. When the president returns, he sends the same letter, or she sends the same letter, to both sides of Congress saying, I'm back, fulfilling my duties as president. The last part of this made for great movie plots and a lot of things. Air Force One with Harrison Ford was based on it. Anyways, it said, what if the president, say, is in a coma? Not dead, but unable to write this letter discharging, and assigning the VP to become acting president. Who has the button on the nuclear bombs? Well, the idea, it says that if half of the cabinet, or more than half of the cabinet, declares in the letter to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House that the president is unable to fulfill their duties, then they can declare the vice president the acting president. And the president would be restored when he returns and writes that letter, or there's a 21-day provision in there that both sides of Congress have to meet to decide permanently to declare the acting president, the vice president, the president, say the president's in extended illness. But it's a way to essentially always have a president in power so that there's someone who's the key commander and national leader. 26th Amendment, you cannot deny the right to vote based on age if you're over 18. Or the Vietnam Amendment. People were dying for their country in Vietnam, dying for a country they couldn't vote in. So that looked kind of bad symbolically. So they expanded the enfranchisement again, saying you cannot be denied the right to vote if you're over 18. A state could still lower the age if it wanted, but it can't raise the voting age above 18. And the 27th Amendment's kind of funny. The 27th was actually proposed originally in the original Bill of Rights. The original Bill of Rights actually has 12, they're called articles, but 12 amendments. Only 10 of them were ratified and became our Bill of Rights. But there are 2 other ones sitting in there. One of which was this little quirk, which is Members of Congress vote their own salaries. How cool is that? So the 27th Amendment said if they give themselves a raise or a change in their payment, they have to wait until the next election to receive it. Translation, if they give themselves a huge fat raise and people are unhappy with Congress, they could vote them out of office the next term. Of course, the new person coming in would get the big pay raise. I don't know why it didn't pass in the original one, but it kind of sat around for well over over 200 years until it was dragged out and 2 more states ratified this, and then it entered the Constitution as the 27th Amendment. And that's it from the Happy House of History.